All right, so today I'm going to show you another type of woodworking joint. This is a dowel joint. I'm going to show you a couple of variations of this, okay? There's two basic kinds of dowel joints. You have a blind dowel, and that means the dowel pin isn't seen. And then we have a through dowel where you're basically putting a dowel pin in to an already glued joint, and you will see the end of that dowel, okay? So what I have here is it's a 5/16 diameter fluted hardwood dowel, okay, 2 inches long. Most of the material that you're going to dowel is going to be 3/4 of an inch thick, and I've found that I like the 5/16 thick diameter dowel for most applications. That's about the right size. You don't really want any smaller than that. I don't like making a hole any bigger than that in this 3/4 inch thick, okay? So this is a 2-inch dowel pin. So what I'm going to show you first is we're going to simulate us, like putting a face frame together like so, okay? So we're going to start by making some marks here, all right? And so there's going to be dowel holes in the end of this and in the side of this so that those corners line up. What this dowel pin does, we talked about this before, the way you strengthen any glue joint is by increasing the wood-to-wood contact, okay? And this is kind of we're adding like a mechanical fastener to that joint to strengthen it, okay? And it's going to pin these together. It makes it stronger, but it also is an alignment tool. It lines these two pieces up when they're being glued together, okay? And it makes your project more accurate. It makes the joint stronger, makes it more accurate, okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to space these dowels out, okay? And yes. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to come in an inch from each edge, like so. I'm going to put 2 dowels in this. I would never, on some really small pieces, you'll just have 1 dowel pin, but 2 dowels is so much better, okay? And you can see there I've made my marks, okay? There's my alignment marks. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up, there you go. I'm going to line up this corner like so. I'm going to transfer the marks to this piece. Okay? So let's put this piece in the vise. Get back on the camera here. Okay. And what we're going to use in this instance is a doweling jig. Okay? And so it has different size holes for different size dowels. And it has these alignment marks in here that shows you the center of each dowel. So I would want to line that alignment mark up with my mark that I made each time, okay? Trying to do this so you can see it on camera makes it difficult for me to see. I'll get this lined up. Okay, what this doweling jig does, as I tighten that, okay, it's gonna drill in the exact center of the board every time. And this guide, this steel guide up here, is going to drill it straight. Now I want to know how deep to drill. So here's what I'm going to do. Okay, I'm just going to put a piece of tape there, okay, that marks, that's basically at the surface of the wood. The drill bit is setting on the surface of the wood, okay. What I'm going to do is make a mark. I'm going to put another piece of tape that's about just over an inch to the bottom of the tape off the surface of the doweling jig. Let's see how accurate I am, okay? I'm looking for about an inch and a 1/16 or so. That's pretty accurate, okay? If you can see that. Now, so let's remove this bottom piece of tape. This top piece of tape is going to be our depth guide. It's a simple way to do it. And so what I'm doing is I'm drilling. The depth of the hole needs to be half the length of the dowel pin plus just a little bit more. Okay. So drill our hole. Clean it out. We're going to move our doweling jig, drill the other hole. Okay. Whoopsie. Okay. We're going to drill our second hole right here. Okay, there's that piece done. Okay, now get those cleaned out. Now I've got this piece to drill, okay, that corresponds with the other. Okay, so I went ahead and drilled the second piece. You don't need to see that. It's the same process as the first, okay? So I've got holes drilled in both parts of this joint, okay? Good idea to test fit. This would save a lot of headaches if more students did this. Test fit things before you actually apply glue. Make sure everything's going to line up. And this is where the doweling jig is really useful. It's very difficult to get everything completely straight like this by hand with no guide. Okay, you see that's going to go together. Okay. Now, so what we're going to do, make sure that's clean, both sides. This is the right way to glue a dowel, okay? A lot of people, I don't know, people always want to dump glue in the hole and then put the dowel in, okay? What you want to do, I grab a scrap of lumber that I don't care about, okay, and I put some glue on it, all right? And I'm going to roll that dowel so it's completely coated, okay? And the size of the hole is imperative. I mean, you want the size of the hole pretty much the exact same as the diameter of the dowel pin. The other thing that I see people do is when they, say you're putting together a face frame, they get two dowel pins glued up and then they stick that part of the joint together and then they start gluing more stuff. By the time you finally get to the clamps, that joint has set up, and if it's not all the way pressed together, then you're in trouble, and you're going to create a weak joint by forcing it loose and forcing it to move. I don't ever put anything together, touch any wood-to-wood contact when I'm assembling until I'm ready to put clamps on everything. I try to keep everything laid out, keep everything separate. Glue in the open air, it'll take a long time to dry. You put it under pressure between two pieces of wood and things happen very quickly. It'll set up very quickly, okay? The other thing I'm going to do to strengthen this joint is, I'm going to get a good, because there is some strength, there is some value in this. I'm going to get glue on the surface, a little bit around the top of the hole, okay? And the reason I don't like putting glue down in the holes is usually people use too much and then they're trying to force the glue out when they're pushing the dowel pin in, okay? That is not correct. So here we go. We're gonna get that started right there. Your marks should always be on the same side, right? I would never, want to do it like that. I see it all the time, okay? And then we're gonna put that together. Boom. Put it under the clamp pressure, Okay, get a clamp on that, wipe up your glue. That's a very strong joint. Okay. All right. Second one I'm going to show you. Okay, so I've got, this would simulate maybe a box, a drawer box, something like that. This has already been glued together. Okay, and what we're going to do is put that like that. I'm sure you can see it. Okay, so I'm going to use the same size dowel pin. Okay, so we're going to stick with 5/16. I'm going to make marks about the same place. I'm going to 1 inch in from the edge. Okay, I'm drilling one hole through both pieces. Okay, so alignment. So I'm going to do this without my doweling jig, without my alignment tool. Okay. I also want to know how far in from the end, and that should be centered. It should be half of the thickness. Okay, which is going to be right there. So I'm making a little intersection that marks where I want to drill that hole. Okay. So as far as depth, so we have a 2-inch dowel pin. You know, I want to drill just a little bit deeper than that dowel pin. Just take a dowel pin, okay, hold it up against that bit, okay, and I want to drill that deep. So there's my mark right there, okay. 2 holes. All right. Okay. There's 2 holes drilled. Okay, so what I'm going to do, a little more glue here on my scrap of wood. Ideally, you would clamp this together, let it dry overnight. You know, for demonstration purposes, this hasn't been clamped together very long, about the minimum amount of time. Okay, I never pull anything out of the clamps sooner than 20 minutes, and that's about how long it's been in. So we're going to be kind of careful with this. All right, so that was, we're going to take a mallet, gently tap that in place. Okay, and I want it just a little bit proud, barely sticking out. We can go back and sand that off later. Okay. The other thing that you can do, now this is just dowel rod that you can buy at any box store, hardware store. A lot easier to come by. It'll give you a little bit better appearance. It's not a fluted or spiral cut dowel. It's just a solid hardwood dowel. And so from the end, it's going to give you a little bit better appearance. But what I would do with that is just, I'm going to put glue on, since I've already drilled my depth for 2 inches, I'm just going to put glue on the 2 inches on the end of this dowel. I'm going to get it nice and soupy. Okay. Like so. All right. And then that can be driven in. I should have cut this a little shorter. Okay. Okay. Once that's in, okay, then you can take and just flush cut with a saw. Careful not to get into your project. I'm just letting the blade sit right on top of the surface. Okay. And there again, you know, I'm left with, I can sand that. Once that glue's dry, I'll go back and sand that. Okay, so that would be a through dowel. The other was a blind dowel. This is a through dowel. Those are your 2 types of dowel joints.